Tensions in the Middle East, of course, are taking center stage today. President Trump leaving the G7 summit early, and he is meeting with his top advisors back in the White House. President also had to dispute some comments that were made by France's President Emmanuel Macron, saying he mistakenly left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to D.C. to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. President Trump saying it is much bigger than that. And indeed, as we watch and wait, we know it can be and may be. As the next few hours are critical, I'm pleased to bring in our next guest to discuss this. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. He's the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee and also a member of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. Senator, great to have you with us today on Newsline. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having me.
So at this point, we're watching and waiting to see what, if any, U.S. involvement there may be vis-a-vis bunker busters. You were pretty straightforward talking about accolades for the president, saying thank you for being unapologetic America first, and saying the fact that Iran was willing to negotiate an end to this conflict as long as the U.S. didn't intervene. But it seems like President Trump may be going in a different direction. What, if any, U.S. involvement would you be okay with?
You know, I'm very hopeful that the president will keep us out of this war. One of the things I like about President Trump is that he has shown restraint in the past and has shown some belief that intervention in the Middle East has led to unintended consequences. He refers to that with the Iraq War, of course. And so my hope is that we stay out of this war. I think there's still a possibility for negotiations. I think it's difficult to know how Iran's going to react. There's a couple different possible reactions from Iran. They could possibly say, let's negotiate, we'll work on a deal to make sure that no nuclear weapons are developed. Or it's a possibility that they make a sprint towards a nuclear weapon because of this. And so that's the unknown thing about, you know, the beginning of this war, is we're not sure exactly how they will react. But I think if we get further involved, the likelihood of diplomacy gets lower and lower.
Some say this would be more limited if there was perhaps just a bunker buster to wipe out some of the nuclear facilities, not maybe prolonged, could be more of a decisive end. Do you see that as a potential outcome as well? And is that something you're comfortable with if that is the ends to the mean, where Iran never gets a nuclear weapon? And some say it means not just Israel, but the world is safer, Senator.
Well, I think everybody hopes that Iran doesn't develop a nuclear weapon, but I don't think you can bomb away nuclear knowledge. It takes about a cupful of highly enriched uranium to create a bomb. And so I think that the possibility of being able to bomb away every cupful of highly enriched uranium is pretty small. The real question is, how will Iran react to this, and are we still open to negotiation? If Iran, after this incredible defeat by Israel, is willing to still negotiate, we should we should express all means and try to make every attempt to still have negotiation and not give up on it.
Let's talk about the big, beautiful bill. You also had a phone call with the president, and you just, again, praised him a little bit, but some thought maybe your relationship was a little bit frosty. You've been obviously a big critic on the debt ceiling as of late. The Senate Finance Committee released its version of President Trump's tax agenda. It scales back no tax on tips, overtime pay, cuts hundreds of billions in Medicare spending, and the SALT cap going back to 10, which we know the House wanted at 40, but that adds a lot of money to the bill as well. So first off, let me talk to you about what you're willing to negotiate. You told President Trump reportedly Saturday that you're not a no, but you say, too, they've been sending attack dogs at you, and that's not going to work. So what will work to get you to a yes here?
You know, I've been consistent throughout my career. I'm for lower taxes and less spending. I'm for balanced budgets. I'm for a small, limited constitutional government. With regard to this bill, the tax cuts I'm for, I voted for them in 2017. There's a few additional tax cuts. I'm for them also. I want to make the tax cuts permanent so we can have some certainty so business can develop. I think the low unemployment in Trump's first administration was largely regarding and the response of the tax cuts. I think it was a result of the tax cuts. So I'm for that. I think the spending cuts that are in the bill so far are wimpy and anemic, and I think should be made better. But I could tolerate the tax cuts that a majority of Republicans can conclude on. What I don't want to do is raise the debt ceiling by $5 trillion because that means that we're basically expanding the credit line to Congress when Congress has already borrowed $36 trillion. We have a $2 trillion annual deficit. Our interest payment, for goodness sakes, is over $1 trillion a year. So this is by taking your 16-year-old, give them a credit card, they run up $2,000 in debt,
right.
and you say, oh, well, honey, I want to make it better. Why don't I make your credit $10,000? It's a big mistake. It's not conservative. And so I can support the bill, but they will have to separate the debt ceiling to another vote, or they have to dramatically reduce the number. I've said I will give them more credit for 3 months, and we should address this 3 or 4 times a year.
And no concern that since you have the Senate and the House now, that at some point down the road, though, you may need Democrat votes and then it could become more problematic. What do you say to those who pose that argument?
Democrats have always voted to raise the debt ceiling. There's no historical evidence that they won't again. They love debt. I mean, the modern monetary theory is based on borrowing. They're the ones that always say we have to raise the debt ceiling. So presented with the vote, the Democrats will vote for it. They always have. In Trump's first term, that's how the debt ceiling went up, is with Democrat votes and big government Republicans. This will be the first time the debt ceiling and the spending levels and everything will be the responsibility of Republicans. If and when this bill passes, the debt ceiling and the spending levels, there's no more blame for Biden. There's no more blame for Democrats. Republicans can't stand up and say, oh, it's the Democrats who are for borrowing and spending and all of that. No, it will now be the Republicans that are for borrowing, spending. So that's a big mistake for this to be completely on the shoulders of Republicans, and I'm not for it. There needs to be a conservative remnant who is the same as we've always been, against the debt and against the borrowing.
Senator, it's great to have you. Did you schedule a follow-up call with the president here after your Saturday call? Anything on the books there?
I've talked to him 3 times in the last week. We'll continue to talk, and they need to know that I am available. You know, if the discussion is there are 49 votes, I will not be the deciding vote against this. I will negotiate, and I'll be a yes if the vote is needed. Right now, they have sicked their attack dogs on me. All these crazy, scurrilous characters are attacking me. But the thing is, that's not likely to motivate me or make me willing to accept something that's not conservative. But I will accept a conservative bill, and if they need a 50th vote, they'll have to separate the debt ceiling out. It's as simple as that.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you for your time today. Good to have you.
Thank you.